You stupid fool. Did you really think you gonna hit me? Huh? Bam, bam, bam. Over.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So Eddie Hearn, he just announced that he made an offer to Bob Arum to put his fighter, Maurice Hooker, in the ring with Bob Arum's fighter, Jose Ramirez, which would be a unification bout. Maurice Hooker is the WBO champion at 140, and Jose Ramirez is the WBC champion at 140. Now, what makes this news so ironic is we just heard what Bob Arum just recently said about Al Haymon. He said that Al Haymon will tell Errol Spence not to listen to the white guys, and basically implied that PBC and Al Haymon, they don't want to work with other promoters or quote unquote white guys to make the best fights. So right after Bob Arum says that, another promoter and quote unquote white guy, if you will, calls out Bob Arum and offers him a unification bout to give the fans a fight that they really want to see. Because this would be the biggest fight for both fighters, Maurice Hooker and Jose Ramirez, if they fought against each other. This gives Bob Arum an opportunity to prove that he is trying to do something that he claimed Al Haymon is not willing to do. Bob Arum saying that he wants to work with Al Haymon to put on the best fights. I'm pretty happy that Bob Arum, he's had a change of heart from a couple years ago, because when I interviewed him back then, he said something completely different, because I asked him the question. In an interview I did with him, I asked Bob Arum, I said, don't you think it would be better for the betterment of the sport for you guys to work together? Matter of fact, let me go ahead and play this clip real quick. The last question, Bob. It seems with Al Haymon in the PBC series, with them signing so many fighters, it seems like eventually it would be beneficial for you guys to collaborate and work together. Will that ever happen?
No.
And there you have it. So as you guys see in that clip right there, at one point, Bob Arum, he did not hesitate to tell the public that he does not and will not work with Al Haymon, even if it's for a cause of putting on the best fights. But now, since PBC is still here and they're stronger than ever, Bob Arum, he now realizes it does make sense to work with Al Haymon to make some of the best fights. Now, I would like to address the fans right now. To the fans that love posting comments, these decals that say stuff like, hey man, why do you have to mention race? Why does this have to be about race? Why didn't any of you guys post any of those comments when you heard Bob Arum say Al Haymon is going to tell Errol Spence, and I quote, don't listen to the white guys. Listen to me, brother. We're part of a brotherhood. Where was your comments at when Bob Arum said this? I thought you guys didn't like when people mention race. Because we all know that if Al Haymon would have said that about Bob Arum, after Bob Arum had actually told me that he is never going to work with Al Haymon and didn't even give a reason, can you guys imagine if Al Haymon would have said exactly what Bob Arum said about him from the opposite end of the spectrum? We already know what they would be saying about Al Haymon if he made that statement. It's pretty ironic though, because when Bob Arum said that Al Haymon is going to tell Errol Spence not to listen to the white guys, Al Haymon actually worked with Bob Arum to make the Floyd Mayweather-Manny Pacquiao fight. On top of that, when Floyd Mayweather had met Manny Pacquiao at that basketball court for the first time, they exchanged phone numbers. Later on, they had another little meeting in a hotel room, and it was Al Haymon that was on the phone helping to make that deal. We know that Al Haymon, he works with quote unquote white guys like Lou DiBella, a promoter who's basically been working with Al Haymon since the emergence of PBC. We know that Al Haymon, he advises Danny Jacobs, but he allowed Danny Jacobs to sign with Eddie Hearn in DAZN while still working side by side with Danny Jacobs. I mean, according to Bob Arum's narrative, you would have thought that Al Haymon would have told Danny Jacobs, don't listen to the white guys. Stay over here with PBC and the Brotherhood. But that's not what Al Haymon did. Al Haymon, he had no problem with Danny Jacobs working with DAZN and Eddie Hearn. So the question is, once again, is Bob Arum going to allow that fight to come to fruition? Jose Ramirez versus Maurice Hooker for a unification bout? Or is Bob Arum going to keep Jose Ramirez in-house and try to match him up against Teofimo Lopez later on? Well, I'll tell you this, whatever Bob decides to do, this is a great opportunity for Bob to show that he is willing to put his fighters at risk just for the fans to get the best fights. Now, in defense of Bob Arum, he has done it in the past before. Let's see if he'll do it for this fight. Something else we need to take into account, this may not be up to Bob Arum. Jose Ramirez, he may not want the fight because Jose Ramirez was supposed to fight his mandatory Regis Prograis, and he turned that fight down. And that wasn't Bob Arum's choice, that was Jose Ramirez's choice. Just like it was Jose's decision to opt out of that World Boxing Super Series tournament. But at the end of the day, because of what Bob Arum said about Al Haymon, I think Bob Arum, he should put his foot down and he should try to put pressure on his fighter Jose Ramirez to take this unification bout. Like I told you guys before, this is a big fight for Jose Ramirez, it's a big fight for Maurice Hooker. And it's a big fight for the boxing fans. Let's see what Bob Arum decides to do. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.